Rabbi Fried usually gives the speech before lighting the candles the first night of Hanukkah. He was not available tonight, so he asked me to do it. I want to share with you all a paraphrase of what I said to the congregation a few minutes ago. Tonight begins Hanukkah, the first night of Hanukkah, to celebrate the events that occurred to reclaim Judea and Temple around 2200 years ago. Hanukkah is the most recent of the Jewish holidays, but also the most well-known. It's the holiday that's probably most observed to some extent by Jews of any affiliation to Judaism. It's also the holiday most observed by the Gentiles, in the extent that you can walk down Avenue U and see Chanukiot, the menorah, in the windows of many shops, even if they're not Jewish. It's not like we see like Passover time, for instance. Passover, I would say, is the most famous, the most observed of the holidays in the Torah. Passover is not observed by Gentiles to such an extent, like having a Chanukiah in a window, in so many store windows. Also, so that's what I want to speak about, is the contrast of Hanukkah and Passover. They are both similar in that they celebrate, commemorate and celebrate our victory over attempts to destroy us as a nation, as a belief system. Chanukah is oftentimes contrasted to Purim, the other rabbinic holiday, as Purim was an attack on our lives, whereas Chanukah was an attack on our spirituality, as an attempt to Hellenize the Jews. That is true, but with Chanukah there was an attempt as well to kill us as well. Same thing with Passover. It was an attempt basically to control us, at the end to kill us, and along the way also to make the Israelites worship and be subservient to the Egyptians, to worship their gods and to be subservient to the Egyptians. So there is that dual aspect of an attack on our lives and on our spirituality as well. The biggest difference between the two holidays of Passover and Chanukah is that Passover is we commemorate all the barrage of open miracles, as is said in the Torah and cited in the Haggadah, the Otot Mofatim, the signs and wonders, all these the 10 plagues, the splitting of the sea, and so on and so forth. All these amazing things, all these amazing supernatural things, with the exception of the anecdote about the burning candles in the temple, as mentioned in the Talmud. The miracles of Hanukkah are what we call closed miracles, which are, and I plan on arguing, extremely important as well. It's just different. It's the things that seem to just go along with the fabric of nature. It's not something which bends the rules of nature. What was the miracle with Hanukkah? It was, when I was growing up, the story I kind of knew in middle school, whatever, was maybe I wasn't paying attention, maybe it wasn't taught well, but that the Jews were being persecuted, and in Judea they decided to rise up and fought against the Greeks, took the temple, took Jerusalem and the temple, and then lived happily ever after for a while. It wasn't until a few years ago I actually researched the story more, read into it, and I realized how long an event it was, of decades of revolting and of getting their army together, taking Jerusalem, finally taking the Temple Mount, rebuilding the temple, getting autonomy, the having to send messengers to Rome, dealing with the Greeks and the Romans, and trying to get on both parties' sides and using them against each other in order to get the most good for the Jews. An amazing story. Tons of, or to say what to allude to what I said before, a barrage of closed miracles. All these military victories, all these political victories, or military miracles, political miracles. These are perhaps not the Otodim Moftim, but that phrase that I cited before, which comes from Deuteronomy chapter 4, Devarim chapter 4 in the Parsha of Yet Hanan. It not only does it mention the Otodim Moftim, the signs and wonders, but the verse continues, Uv milchama, uv yad chazaka, uv izro nesuya, and by war and a strong hand and an outstretched arm. That war, yes, there were no Otodim Moftim, but there were the milchama, the war, the yad chazaka, the strong hand, the outstretched, the outstretched arm, and that outstretched arm, that strong hand, that's been with the Israelites, that's been with the Jews for, it's continually been with us. It's whether it has going back to the days of Pharaoh, and taking the Israelites out of Egypt, or the fighting and getting the temple, or Purim, for instance, getting back, fighting for the Jews' autonomy. Fighting for the Jews' life in Persia, or the story of Chanukkah. These are all events that are memorialized in the Maos Torah. It's that common theme running through, saying that God has been with us. But the last verse continues saying, looking towards the future. And since then, we have had wonderful stories. The same idea of the outstretched arm, the strong hand, most common, most well-known perhaps. 1948, the War for Independence. 1967, the Six-Day War. Same kind of idea: outstretched arm, strong hand. So yes, we might not be having those Otodim Moftim, those signs and wonders, those open miracles, but God's strong hand is visible to anyone who sees it, anyone who opens his or her eyes. And speaking of eyes, when we look at these flames, when we go home and light the Chanukkah for ourselves tonight and for the next 8 nights, when we light it here in the shul, to just see it, remember the strong hand, the outstretched arm, the Yad Chazaka and the Zro Netuya that went into helping us reclaim the temple, giving us our autonomy. And that's the same, that outstretched arm and strong hand belong to the one who is always looking after Israel.